Hey, really, people. So something I get asked from time to time is, where does intuition come from? So today I'm going through the 10 places that intuition can come from. So now the first couple of places that intuition can come from is from inside, because intuition is really, we can think about it as it's got to do with our internal alignment, our connection to ourself, and our external alignment, our connection to the world. So the first couple of places that our intuition can come from is when there's something that you've dreamt about, something that you've wanted for a long time. So when you have this dream that you're focused on internally, then when your intuition will talk to you about that, it will talk to you about, well, if you want to create this dream, go here, go do this. And so that is one of the places that your intuition can come from. It comes from your connection, your focus on your dreams. Now, the second place that it can come from inside is kind of like the opposite to that. Like if there's something that you're particularly concerned about, or something that you're trying to avoid. So then your intuition in the same way will tell you, don't do that, don't go there, do this instead. So it will actually help you avoid problems, whether it's when you're talking to somebody and it's telling you, don't talk about that subject, or, you're talking to somebody else and you're actually then doing the things that help you move around those little conflicts. Now, these two things can often work together, of course, because in order to create our dreams, we often have to avoid problems so that we don't get stuck in them. So our intuition is often going between these things, avoid this, do this. And this is particularly apparent when the third place that intuition can come from internally is when we're working on a project, when we have a project that we've been working on. And this is probably one of the more common ways that we get our intuition, because it's one of the easiest ways for us to be able to interpret our intuition accurately. Because when we have a lot of knowledge in a particular area, for example, I work a lot of people with their health and with their personal development. Now, I've been working in that area for years, more than half my lifetime. So because of that, my intuition and my left brain in those areas can work together. So whenever I'm working, on a project or with a client and we're working on something in particular, well, again, that creates that alignment. And when you're working on a project, now that's not as big as your dreams. They're more like those little everyday intuitions that you get. So it can, if you're going home and you need to, you suddenly get the thought of, oh, I need milk. Well, it may not be that, you may not know that you need milk, but, unbeknownst to you, there could have been people, visitors turn up at home, or for some reason all the milk got used up and you didn't know that, but you just knew to go and stop and get it on the way home. They're the little everyday intuitions. But those ones tend to come to us more often when we're already working on something. So that's the third place that it can come from. Now, the next three places that it actually can come from is from outside ourselves. So this is more about the environment. So the first place that outside that our intuition can talk to us about it's about change. It's when something that we're used to, or something has changed. In some ways, traffic intuition is a little bit like that. So you might be on your way to work and you get this sense, oh, I should go this other way. And that's because, without you knowing it, without checking the apps or whatever on your phone, you you've realized that there's been a change because unfortunately somebody's had an accident, or there's some, some emergency roadworks there because of a burst water main or something. And so the conditions you are heading into has changed. The outside world has changed. So your intuition is talking to you about that. Now, the other place that intuition can come from outside is an opportunity. Now, that could be, again, it could be connected to some of your dreams, in the sense of, well, I want to create this, and suddenly you get this idea to go and look in a particular place. For example, when I bought my last house, there was an area I didn't even really consider looking at, because it was a little bit above my budget, that area, usually. But then my intuition just one day said, no, go and look at that area. And that's the house that I bought. Actually, it only just been put back on the market. So anyway, it created a great opportunity. So sometimes, when things outside, there's been a change, or something has opened up into an opportunity for us, those things will talk to us. So that's where the intuition can come from, outside. Now, the sixth place that it can come from, which is also from outside, is this is actually where we get a lot of our stories about intuition from. Because the sixth place that it can come from is when, there's this sort of life and death situation. So that's when we're really, the energy of that critical moment is speaking to us really clearly. So, I remember my dad when I was a kid, like, we were driving, there was a lot of, the kids were in the car, 5 kids in my family. We were in the back seat, mum and dad in the front, and we were driving down this hill that is very tight, windy road. And this couple on a motorbike came up behind us and, went around us really fast and took off down the hill. I mean, I'm sure on a motorbike it was quite fun, going around those corners. But so Dad drove on he drove around the next corner. And then when he came to the next corner after that, he braked really suddenly. He braked so suddenly that us in the back seat, we sort of, we had to sort of get ourselves sorted out after that. And he crept around the next corner so slowly. And the couple who had been on the motorbike they'd gone around, they'd lost it on that corner, and they were lying there on the middle of the road. They were fine, but they wouldn't have been fine if Dad had driven around that corner at a normal speed, because these corners were so sharp and so tight. He wouldn't have seen them until he was literally right on top of them. So that was literally a life and death situation, because that moment spoke to my dad so clearly that he knew to really slow down. And if he hadn't done that, because he crawled around that corner, he was able to stop. They had the time to pick themselves up, pick up their bike, and get themselves sorted. But if he hadn't done that, if his intuition hadn't spoken to him so clearly in that moment, so that is one of the ways that is one of the places that intuition comes through. It comes from that intense moment of, when things are getting a little critical. Okay. So sometimes intuition can come from outside us, sometimes it can come from inside us. But of course, there's this other place that our intuition can come from as well, which is, I guess, in many ways, it's what a lot of people think of, the more kind of spiritual or universal intuition. It seems to come from a higher plane or another place. It's coming from that connection that we all share. So when we're getting those kind of higher intuitions, if you like, or those more universal intuitions, it's coming not just from outside us, but from outside us and from a place that perhaps we don't even fully understand yet. So when it's coming from outside us, it's actually our higher self or our potential is calling to us. So it's coming from that place that we are meant to kind of grow into. And it's kind of like that intuition is coming from that universal space to help us grow, because, well, that is really the purpose of our intuition. It's to help us to expand, to achieve our brilliance, to become all that we can be. So you could say that it was our brilliance talking to us. So the next place is that it's similar to that. Is that it's connected to your purpose. So whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life, whatever it is that you want to be, or some people would even say whatever it is that you've come here to do, that is your intuition. And it's calling to you again. It is that sense, that larger part of you, your higher self, your more brilliant self. It's that part calling to you so that you can get aligned with that and start to walk that path. Now, the next one, interestingly, is when it's actually not connected to your purpose, but it's connected to somebody else's purpose. Because sometimes, because life is a co-creation, and intuition is that part of ourself that enables us to experience that joy of co-creation and expansion. Sometimes it's actually other people's purpose is calling to us, so that we feel moved to do that thing that will give that person a nudge. I remember I was in one of the local parks. I'd gone there on Sunday afternoon to walk. There's a labyrinth there that I like to walk, and I'd driven there. And when I was walking back to my car, now the interesting thing is that when I'm going to town, because I live up in the mountains, and so when I drive to Sydney, I often like to stop at the local spring and get some of the local spring water, because it's lovely. Normally I only use glass bottles because, I prefer to store spring water in glass. And but this particular day I had a plastic bottle for some reason, I can't remember why, and I had the sense to actually fill that up as well, and I didn't know why, but that was okay, so I just did that. No big deal, left it in the car. But it was, the urge to do that did feel like that intuitive impulse. Anyway, so I was walking back to my car, and I noticed behind me, this chap. He had his bonnet up on his car. So obviously that's universal signal. You don't need your intuition for that. Universal signal that his car was having a bit of trouble, and it was a warm day, so it's chances were it was the radiator. And so I asked him, as you do, are you okay? And yes, it was his radiator. And he said, do you have any water? And I said, sure. So he didn't even have anything to fill his radiator up with, even though they're, in the park there were taps nearby. So I gave him the plastic bottle, and he goes, oh, this is your spring water, I can't take that. I said, look, I've just refilled it, it's fine. So it was all good. Anyway, we ended up talking a little bit, and he said to me that, I had this intuitive urge to go and get the car checked out last week, and I didn't do it. He said, what do you think that was about? And I said, well, maybe it's about you learning to actually listen to those intuitive impulses. Now, I have no idea if that moment actually had that impact on him, actually enabled him to listen to his intuition from now on. But I think that it's given him certainly an opportunity to do that. So sometimes our intuition speaks to us really clearly, but it's actually not for our benefit. It's for the benefit of everything, which of course is the 10th and final place that your intuition comes from. It's actually like my purpose and your purpose and everybody's purpose. They all blend together to create this world that we're building together. So it isn't just, your higher self, your more brilliant self calling to you. It's not just my more brilliant self calling to me. It's this most brilliant future that we can co-create together. And so sometimes that intuition, it isn't just about us creating our own life, although it is about that, but it's also about us playing our little part to co-create this brilliant future of this brilliant world in which we live. So those intuitions can be really satisfying to listen to. So there you are. There's the 10 places that your intuition can come from. They're all important. They're all worth listening to. And the more that we listen to them and practice them, the more brilliant things become for us and for other people. So I hope that helps. And until next time, remember that you're brilliant.